Buenos dias. We human beings are dealing with a lot of wicked problems right now. And there's global warming, Islamic terrorism, global recession, banking systems falling apart. And the last thing I know you all want is another big wicked problem to put on a list. And unfortunately, I see a big one, and it's apparently too counterintuitive for most people to see. But it deserves to be high on the list, and I think it's going to impact those of us that are on Earth the next 25 years more than and before, for example, we start losing beach property at Chesapeake Bay to rising floodwaters. The problem I see is a shortage of qualified workers. There's two steps to the logic string of my presentation today, and I'm only going to talk about the problem. There's not enough time to start talking about some of the solutions we're finding. There are some, but we've got to be careful to define the problem the right way and understand that it's not something you can wish away. Basically, what full employment means is economic development is over. You cannot grow your economy if you don't have any more qualified workers. Well, I'm going to do a little primer on economic development. Most of the people in the economic development field don't think about economic development this way. We've been used to just trying to figure out how to create jobs. You can't do economic development that way anymore. Economic development is an equation between the economy and the population. Your economy needs to grow faster than your population if you want to have more resources per person to serve in your community. If your economy grows slower than the population, you have more people to serve, less resources. That's what happens in a recession. The formula below just puts in time. So over time, your economy needs to grow faster than the population. Real simple, but people aren't thinking about it this way. You start looking at the elements of the economy and the population. There's three elements to the economy. There's the economic base, or the part of the jobs that are producing goods and services that are sold outside the economy, brings new money in. There's the service sector. That's us selling stuff to each other, creates most of the tax revenue. And then there's the net worth, the value that we retain. Those three things make up the size of your economy. The population has three, maybe four elements. You've got dependents, too old to work, too young to work. And you've got qualified workers and unqualified workers. But the economy scales to the population. When I first saw this, it scared the hell out of me. I was the economic developer here in Albuquerque for a master plan community project. We promised the city we'd create more jobs than we needed to support the residential population. So we were on the hook for 400 net new economic-based jobs, averaging $45,000 a year, to build 600 houses. 400 jobs on the ground, working before the city gave us permits for 600 houses. And we were going to build 38,000 houses. So we're going to have to grow the economy faster than the population, ahead of the population, if we wanted to build the project out. Well, the unemployment rate in 2004 was starting to drop in Albuquerque. It went from 3.6, 3.5, 3.4, got down to 3.3 before the recession started. The CEO of the company told me, "Are anything keeping you up at night about our ability to meet these job metrics? Because if we can't, this entire real estate project blows up." And I said, "Yeah, look at this BLS curve." And what this curve shows you is the demand for jobs and the supply of workers. And where it crosses is 2008. And what it means is, for 4 reasons, which I'll go into next, from now on, our economy is going to grow faster, going to want to grow faster than our workforce can staff it. The blue line is the demand for jobs. The red line is the number of workers. And that hasn't been adjusted for the qualified workers. What that means is from now on, next 25 years or more, every year there's less and less workers to meet more and more jobs. Here's the causes. Falling birth rate. 2.1 children per fertile female is break even. If it weren't for immigration and the Hispanic population, we'd probably be 1.6, 1.7. All of Europe, Japan, most of the industrialized nations are below replacement, are way below replacement, and have been for a long time. It's mainly because having children went from a main factor in creating wealth during an agricultural economy to, in an industrialized economy, having children are a cost. So people aren't having children anymore. China is in really big trouble. They have what they call the 4-2-1 problem. They've got more boys. They aborted 20% of the girls. So you have one pampered boy, 2 parents, and 4 grandparents to support. So it looks like their economy flatlines in 2015. They just won't have enough workers to staff their economy to take care of all the people they have. The other problems is life expectancy is growing, so as people retire, they don't die, and so your population's loading up on the old not working end. And you have this boomer anomaly. So there's 75 million of us born all at once after World War II. We're all going out of the workforce. We're all going to bail out of the workforce at the same time. And we didn't have enough kids. We're the first generation in history not to have enough kids to replace ourselves. So this is usually when I excuse everybody under 40 in the audience to go procreate. And probably another factor that's really exacerbating the problem is that we've allowed our school system to fall apart. The combination of these problems basically creates an irrevocable, inevitable constraint on our economy and all Western economies for the most part. I'm not going to go into this list. I just want you to know, because you're sitting there thinking of all the things you could do to mitigate this problem. The problem is there's just as many, maybe more, that are making it even worse. So immigration isn't going to fix it, because everybody we would get people from need them more than we do. You can make the boomers work, till we're in the grave. We caused the problem. A pandemic, killed everybody over 70 might help a little bit. I mean, but you still go to the other side, and when you get this tape, you can go, you get hold of this tape, you can go through these. But we've been thinking through. I've been going through this for 2 years, looking for the oh never mind factor, and I haven't found it. So I think this is a big, messy, no obvious solution problem we really need to be thinking about. Here's what not having enough labor means. It means a zero-sum labor market. And again, we never had one. In the history of humanity, we always had 4 to 12 kids, so we are always dropping way more kids on the doorstep of the economy than the economy could accept. It reverses. Now, the generations coming in don't replace the people leaving. And the proportion of workers is going to shrink in comparison to the size of the economy. And what it does is it sets up a new paradigm. And it's really tough to get your head around this, but basically if you're an employer and you want to grow your company and you're at full employment, all your qualified workers, but you got to steal talent from your competitors. If you're a community trying to grow your economy faster than your population, you've got to steal talent from other communities. And what that sets up is a winner-loser game for the first time in economic development. So instead of an unlimited number of workers and just assuming that we'd always have more qualified workers than we could employ, it's the opposite. and it's going to challenge how we look at ourselves. It's going to create basically a winning list and a losing list of communities, a winning list and losing list of companies, a winning list and losing list of social groups. And it's going to test the way the U.S. looks at itself, and it's going to test all of our values. Because this is not going to be fair. It's not, and talent is not going to be distributed evenly. Probably the most important thing for economic developers is that the power over where jobs get created shifts away from the governor and the CEO that decides where all the plants go, and now shifts to the employee. It's where the young, qualified workers want to live is going to determine where the jobs go. So if your community isn't a place where they want to live and stay and work, then you're going to be eventually going to be on the loser list. So if your community looks like this, so the pie chart on the left is your community now, and the pie chart on the right is your community in 10 or 15 years. So it's bigger. The one on the right is bigger because your population's growing, but it's just getting older. So if you notice, all the job on the one on the left, dependents are in blue, and it's the old ones on top and the young ones too young to work on the bottom. And then on the right side, you've got qualified workers in green and the unqualified workers in red. Well, what's happening is in our state, we're only graduating half of our high school kids. Well, maybe 40%. So we're dropping half of our kids in the unqualified category. Meanwhile, at the top, the most qualified workers are us baby boomers. We're going to bail out into the dependent sector. And so what's happening is the one quadrant you need to grow, that you want to grow, the qualified worker sector, is actually going to shrink dramatically. And the ones that you want to shrink are going to grow. The unqualified worker category is going to explode. And the dependent sector is going to explode. And the number of people actually working and generating wealth in the economy that gets taxed, every dime of tax revenue our tax-dependent institutions rely on comes from a private sector commercial transaction. You take away those transactions, the tax revenue doesn't get raised, you end up in the classic trying to serve more people with less money. Doesn't last very long. So if your community looks like this, if it looks like in the future the trends are growing your unqualified and your dependent class way faster than your qualified workers, you better think about leaving. And you better find some place where the qualified workers want to live. And if you're a community leaders have been used to pushing the lever. Let's go find another company, let's create some more jobs, and you tweak a couple of components in your tax code, build a sewage treatment plant, a new road, and jobs happen and everything gets better. All that, you can still do all that stuff if you don't have the qualified available workers in your economy to add the jobs. It doesn't matter what else you invest in, it isn't going to happen. And that's what makes economic development such a wicked problem now for so many communities. Basically, half the communities in the U.S. are out of the game. And if you look around now, the economic development programs in most of our communities don't earn a return on investment now, especially in a recession. So, catastrophic full employment. It used to be the holy grail of economic development was let's get to full employment. Now, the second you hit full employment, it means the end. Because once you can't grow the economy, you can't develop you're not going to be able to develop the discretionary resources to improve your community, to make it attractive to the workers so you can steal workers from other communities. And once you go into a deficit mode, you start doing deferred maintenance, you can't invest in the school system, you can't invest in amenities, your community becomes less and less attractive, you go into what I'm calling an economic death spiral. And it's going to be really hard to pull out of it. You can't pull out of it by just getting a new plant to move to town anymore. So this scares the hell out of me. This is a wicked, what I call a wicked dog ears problem. If we come up with ideas right now, it's still 7 years before the needle moves on it. And we can't, you used to be able to just go in and change little components of your community economic system. An incentive here, or a new road, or like I said, a sewage treatment system. Those things don't work anymore. We're going to have to solve big, hairy systems problems to fix this. And to that end, last year we started the Community Economics Lab, and there's about 16 of us in it, including Dr. Jonas and a couple others in the audience. And we're basically looking at, what do you do if you're a mayor or a city councilor or running a tax-dependent institution in a community? What can you do? What kind of program can you run? How do you address it? And there's really three things. We've got to define the problem better. We got to get predictive data, because you can't, right now you can't fill out any of those graphs that I put up there. We defined qualified and unqualified as, unqualified is anybody unable to earn 1.5 times the poverty rate. So they're taking more money out than they're putting in. But we've got to rethink this, we've got to redefine it. I would encourage every community to hire a community economic demographer to figure out where their population's headed. And then we've got to get really creative about these, about how to manage our community economies. So in a year, we've come up with 5 solutions. One of them is actually pretty elegant, and I'm not going to talk about it today because we haven't piloted yet. The pilot's being set up now. But venues like this, and this TED program is really important. It's one of the most important things going on in the country right now. Get new ideas out, and I'm really honored that you guys invited me, and I hope I can come back and tell you that some of the stuff we're working on worked. Anyway, thank you very much, and have a good conference.